Hello and welcome back. This is Sharon, and I am happy to be back sharing with you some more information, health related information to help you be the healthiest version of yourself. I get a lot of questions about salt. A lot of people ask me, is salt good for you? Should we totally cut salt out of our diet? What is it about salt? So I thought I'd do a little short video, giving you some information about salt and how salt can be beneficial for us, and there are ways that salt can be harmful for us. So I got a few notes here that I want to tell you about in regards to salt. Now, salt actually, it's been around forever. Salt is one of the main things or stepping stones that people use to build our civilization. So salt has been around for a long time. And salt was used also, and it's continued to be used as a food preservative. So it's very important to our life for many reasons. But what I want to what I want to let you know is that salt is what you would call sodium chloride. It is a mineral. It is a mineral that our body needs, and it also is part of our electrolytes, things that our body actually needs, like sodium, potassium, and chloride, and things like that. Our body actually needs that. But our body can get too much salt, and that's when the problem comes in. Salt, there are several roles that salt plays in our diet when we eat salt. There are several things that salt helps us with. Now, one of the things that salt helps us with is to help to regulate our blood pressure. So for people who do have high blood pressure, one of the things that the doctors tell them is that, hey, you got to cut back the salt, because more times than not, you are getting salt in your food, or the processed foods that you buy in the store, canned foods and things like that. You're getting salts that way, and you weren't even realizing that you were getting salt. Because most people say, well, I don't add extra salt. You don't have to add extra salt because it's in your food. Especially if you eat a lot of processed food or packaged foods or food that came in a can, then you are getting salt that way. So when we have high blood pressure, that means that we have too much salt in our body, and we get a little imbalanced in our blood pressure. So the other thing that salt helps us with is to help with our blood volume. It keeps us from getting dehydrated. Okay. Another thing is that it helps with the same kind of reason. It helps with water balance. So salt helps us balance the water in our bodies, because we're a big percentage of our body is water, and salt helps to regulate that. And it also helps with the cell function. All the different cells in our body helps. It helps with functioning of the cells. Salt is really important for that. Okay, so those are some major things that salt is good for, but you can get too much salt. Say a large amount of salt in the body can be harmful, and a large amount of salt in the body can cause death. Okay, so you do want to be concerned about the salt. Now, again, I talked about the packaged salt, packaged foods, canned foods, that there's hidden salts that you don't even know were there, but it's salt. So I want to recommend that you start reading the labels. Like when you buy foods at the grocery store, you want to read the labels to see how much salt there is per serving. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're getting smaller amounts of salt in your body. So take in less salt, especially if you have high blood pressure, if the doctors told you that. Okay. So now there's some different types of salt that I want to talk about. Okay, so one type of salt is sea salt, and that's the best kind of salt. Actually, it is the best for your body. It's made by evaporating the sea water, and this is the result of that. Now, one of the things that about sea salt is that not only does it have the sodium chloride in it, but it also has other minerals that come from the ocean and the sea, that come from the sea, and that is good for your body. So you want to, if you can, add sea salt to your diet, then that's what I recommend that you do. Thank you, Robert. Okay, that's what I want to recommend that you do. Add sea salt. Okay, so that's one kind of salt. Now, sea salt comes in different types. You get Mediterranean sea salt, and you can also get Himalayan sea salt or peak Himalayan sea salt. Either one of those is good, and that I recommend, and those are kind that I use. And you can get the Mediterranean at the grocery store. Sometimes you can get the Himalayan at the grocery store, but you may have to go to somewhere like Whole Foods to get that. Now, another type of salt is rock salt. Now, that's not usually a salt. It's like hard, bigger granules of salt. Now, that's not a salt that people usually eat. It's used for preserving food, actually. So that's another type of salt that you may see. Then you have the refined table salt. That's the kind you buy at the grocery store. It's really refined, and some of it you may see where it says it's iodinized salt. And some of us actually need to get the iodinized salt because it has iodine in it, and iodine is very good for helping us regulate our thyroid gland. If you have any kind of thyroid problem, it helps with that. So it's a good thing to buy iodinized salt. However, I want to say something about the refined table salt that we buy at the grocery store. It actually is not the best salt because it has a lot of additives to it. A lot of things have been added to that, like powders and calcium and other things that have been added. If you read the label, you'll see that there are other things in there besides salt. So that's not what I recommend. So those are three types of salt that are kind of common that people use in their day-to-day food. Okay, so those are some things that I wanted to tell you about in relationship to salt. Now, one more thing that I want to say is that there's always a question, like, how much salt do I need, right? So every day, there is a limit on each day how much salt you should take in. It is recommended that you take in 1,500 milligrams. So then, well, what's that? 1,500 milligrams. When you read the back of the labels of the food packages and things that we buy, it'll tell you how many milligrams there are. It'll say it there. Not only is 1,500 milligrams, but that is actually 3/4 of a teaspoon. 3/4 of a teaspoon. Okay, so that's not a lot. Okay, so that's the maximum that we should be getting per day. However, we get a whole lot more than that per day. So I want to, again, recommend that you read the labels of the foods, especially the processed foods. If you're buying packaged foods, you want to read the labels for those. And try to decrease the amount of salt that you're taking in. Okay? There is a such thing as a sodium deficiency, where you're not getting enough salt, so you want to be careful with that as well. But the majority of people in America, it is not a deficiency of salt. That's a small percentage of people who have a deficiency of salt. So we all mostly have a overabundance of salt that we take in, which is responsible for us having many of the diseases that we have in America. So that's all I wanted to say to you about salt and how much salt we need per day, what kinds of salt that is recommended, and things like that. So thanks again for watching, and tune in tomorrow. Make some comments below if you have questions about salt intake, or questions about anything that maybe you would like me to make a video about. I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.